Hi everyone, my name is Keegan Peluso. I'm a musician, educator, producer, songwriter, just doer of musical things, and I am very excited to talk to you about a new podcast entitled The Modern Working Musician. Now, as many of you may know, a career in music is not so simple anymore. We have to be very creative with how we make ends meet, thanks to things like the internet, social media, streaming, and things like that. And each week we will feature an artist who does just that. We will have bonus footage, behind the scenes, how-to instructions, and all that stuff on our Patreon page. Our Patreon page is just $5 a month. You get access to everything extra that we have. So please go over and give us a little visit on Patreon as well. My first guest this week is my longtime dear friend, Mr. Mike Wade. Mike is an electronic artist who operates under the name Gritsmitten. We're going to talk a little bit about what his life was like going to MTSU for audio engineering, what got him into electronic music, and a little bit about his production technique. And then we're going to move forward to our main topic, which is that of social media marketing, more specifically Instagram. I am very much a layperson when it comes to Instagram and marketing on Instagram. So Mike was a phenomenal help. If you like what you hear, Mike is going to do a how-to video, and he's going to do a step-by-step instructional video on his posting technique, what he does on a daily basis on Instagram, and that will be available on our Patreon account. If you would like to subscribe to our Patreon account, once again, it's $5. $5 a month gets you access to everything we put on there. It's pretty simple. So, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome to the Modern Working Musician, episode 1. I'm your host, Keegan Peluso. And today with me is my longtime friend and co-conspirator, Mr. Mike Wade. He is an audio engineer. He is a social media expert. He does electronic music under the name Gritsmitten. We also have a side project together called Bear in the Suburbs, where I play drums along to his electronic nonsense. Formally introducing Mr. Mike Wade. How's it going, Mike?
It's going good. Thanks for all that.
Oh, yeah. I'm here to flatter you. So, Mike, we're here to talk about audio engineering. We're here to talk about social media. We're just here to pick your brain because the modern working musician, the idea is that there is no one set cookie-cutter career path in music. You know, it's not like I'm trying to think of another degree, but it's not one of those where it's like, okay, I've got my degree now, time to sign up for X job. You know, music in general is, well, we sometimes we graduate school, sometimes we dive right in, and then we just try to pay the bills in any which way we can. Yeah. So, how long have you been playing music, Mike?
I think I was put in piano lessons around the 3rd grade or 4th grade, around there. I hated it at first. I didn't really get into picking up new instruments. And drums has really got me into it. And that wasn't until 5th grade or middle school, 6th grade through whatever middle school ends at. And
8th grade.
Yeah, there it is. And yeah, that's when I started and kind of got into it. And then my uncle started, who I'm named after, my Uncle Mike. He's been a musician his whole life, and then he started teaching me about recording and stuff like that younger, and he got me really interested in wanting to do music as like a career.
Very cool. So did you drum before you got in band?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I wasn't good. I thought I was, but I just maybe 2 years or so, maybe a year or two right before I got in. And then when I hit middle school, I really wanted to play trombone, but then Fight convinced me out of it.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Fight, our band director.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys did not know, Mike and I go pretty far back. We were in band together in high school. I was not fortunate enough to be a band nerd in middle school, so I was a late bloomer. Very cool. So after middle school, obviously we did band in high school and stuff. How did your musical tastes kind of shift over the years? Because I know when I first met you, it was all about like hardcore and heavy metal and stuff. So how would you say your musical tastes have kind of shifted over the years?
Oh man. Well, I mean, going back to like middle school, it was all Will Smith all the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's all my parents would let me listen to.
No.
Yeah, so metal, like heavy metal, really stupid douche rock. Super into that in high school. I didn't know any better. Honestly, again, shout out to Fight because he like started talking to me about Tool. I don't know, like and some other bands. They got me really interested in like an artistic approach to things. I mean, they were still doing heavy rock, but it was like way more artsy than like Trivium.
I gotcha.
But yeah, and then when I got out of high school and everybody started going off doing their own thing, it was just me and Casey trying to write stuff, so we couldn't really do a full band thing anymore. And then when I went to MTSU, I was completely alone because Casey was back here, and um, that's what led me to do an electronic was because I didn't know anyone out there, and it was just me, and I still really wanted to write, and I had a laptop and a MIDI keyboard, so I was like, I'm just gonna start writing stuff and just post it.
Okay, so necessity pretty much is what piqued your interest in electronic music.
Oh yeah,
I got you. Very cool. So talk a little bit about the MTSU years, because that's where you and I kind of grew apart for a little while. So I mean, you can give us some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, just how that overall experience was. I know you were totally in love with Murfreesboro.
Oh god, yeah.
So I, for anybody that's thinking about going to college, majoring in audio or anything like that, could you just kind of give us an overall assessment of your experience there? Maybe some, like I said, maybe some highlights, maybe some parts where it's like, dude, this sucks.
Yeah. I mean, MTSU, I loved their program. I love Murfreesboro. It's full of amazing people and wonderful stores. But no, as far as the school and the program go, I feel like it's really whatever you make of it. Because I've known people that have cruised through that program, straight A's, and then they just never ended up doing anything else. But then I'd have a lot of other friends and people that helped me out when I was in school that were just grinding. So they would be going through the program, but every weekend we were hitting up these spots, trying to like network, make friends, handing out business cards, man. When you're in college, I like, even if you don't have, you just put your name, your number, and your email, hand those business cards out just so that people know your name, know how to get in touch with you. And I mean, that's how I made a lot of my connections. Getting to be friends with I loved MTSU because I was in some of my early classes leading into the audio, the prereqs for the audio. I was in with a lot of other majors that also helped me out. So like a lot of film majors and stuff like that. So then we would end up working together for some, like I would write some music for them. And I think that's what I miss the most about MTSU or Murfreesboro is there's so many creative majors. It seemed like the creatives were like the majority at MTSU or in Murfreesboro. I mean, everybody you talk to, they were either like an artist or a singer, or they were doing something creative, and everyone was so down to collab on everything. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's really interesting too, because going to a college like I did at UT Martin, which is a little more formal or like classical, like is rural West Tennessee. The majority of people at my school, of course, we didn't have an audio program or like a contemporary music program. It was all like classical music and stuff. So it was either like pretty much everybody there, with a few exceptions, they wanted to go to grad school or they wanted to be a band director. Those are pretty much the routes that you took. And so it's really interesting to hear about going to a school like MTSU where it's like, let's all do some things. I think that's also a very cool thing that you point out about there are people that go to school for, the audio degree or the music degree, and they're so focused on getting their degree that when it comes time to graduate, the connections aren't really made.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So would you say when you're in college, part of it I think is trying to kind of find and refine what it is you actually want to do. But I also think a lot of that is a good bit of experimenting. Now, I just could you kind of give, or if you have to mull it over a second, we can edit it out. But is there a time where being in college helped you realize like, okay, this is more of what I want to do with my career path? And then is there another story where maybe it helped you kind of change your mind a little bit, or make you realize a new direction?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. The other thing I want to say about MTSU, like so many of their teachers for that program, audio program, RIM program, have all worked in the field. So you weren't getting like this theoretical knowledge. I mean, like one of my teachers was a higher up at like Sony Records for a long time. So you got to really like pick their brains, and that's people who you're wanting to meet. So they definitely knew what they needed to help teach us. But like for something that like being in college that shifted what I wanted to do was like hearing about I think I started like going further and further, and I didn't really know what, like my plans exactly. And I was thinking like maybe if I stayed in Nashville I could work at a studio that was stable. That'd be a good plan. And then I was like I really want to do music, but I kind of want to do experimental music, and there's not really, I don't know how to market that, that's kind of what led me to getting interested in marketing. But then we watched an interview in one of my classes, and we got to talk about it, about this guy. I wish I could credit them. I absolutely can't remember who it was, but they were talking about that everybody talks crap about.
It's okay. We're trying to keep it PG
here.
Yeah.
Like talks crap about this time in music industry, but he loved it because it was, this is the era that you can be like a small business, like as a musician. You can do everything on your own, and you can have a successful career and feed your family, but you don't have to reach that. Like you can do whatever you want. You can find that niche market. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to make crazy, weird, experimental music, if you learn how to market, find that market, and then push to them, and then you could start making money. And do exactly what you wanted. And I remember thinking, yeah, I don't want to be a studio engineer. I want to engineer my own stuff and make weird stuff, find my market, and do that.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah. Awesome, man. So I feel like it's a good transition. So you graduate with audio engineering, and now you're back home, as we both are.
Yeah.
What led you back here? I know it was partially because one of your bearded friends was like, hey, man, let's make some music together.
Yeah. No, we had every intention of going back to Murfreesboro. I moved in with my fiance then in Dyersburg. She was finishing her degree, and I'm trying to think of like what the first reason. We were collabing on a lot of stuff. So I was driving from Dyersburg to here, and then she found out that she could get a really good job in Memphis, and we didn't really we didn't have any connections really for her back in Murfreesboro. So it seemed like a good choice to come back here. With me, I was like, I can use the internet and everything. And then you kind of sold me on coming back here.
Well, I regret nothing. Well, very cool, man. So now we're all cut up from your middle school journeys to here. Now you're like I said, you're making music under the name Grit Smitten. If you want to, you can go ahead and dive into a little bit of what all that is about. And if you want, you can kind of tap into some of your engineering techniques for that project in particular, because I know you have your own brand of wizardry just for that. So go ahead and give us a rundown on Grit Smitten if you'd like.
I mean, mainly it keeps changing. From when it started, it was completely electronic, like EDM style. Well, I mean, it was still kind of weird then. But there was no vocals. There was just straight up electronic dance music. And then it kept progressing because I started wanting to do these side projects. So I wanted to do like maybe like a little more rock stuff, or, I started missing these other aspects of what I was doing musically. And then Casey, one of our good friends, was just saying like, why don't you just cram all like your inspirations into one, like just cram it into that project and make weird music. And so then I started the first EP. Natural was the first EP that had everything. So it was like electronic and guitar and drums, and everything was just kind of like mixed on top of each other. It sounded really weird and awesome. And then I got really into weird vocal effects, like vocal effects that absolutely aren't supposed to match with each other. Like auto-tune and like an acoustic guitar. I love the way that texture sounds. But and it's just kept progressing. Like even now, the newest EP we're about to release is more hip hoppy, R&B influenced. Still kind of weird because I love to sample weird things and add them into my music, and that's always been something that I loved about electronic music. But now I sample the weirdest things. So like just like people talking. My aunt talking in her sleep made it in. I just detuned it, chopped it up, and that made it into a song. Um, just like sounds in general. I love sampling. Like whenever I talk to people about how much I love sampling, they immediately think that I'm just like ripping off old songs, but it's like no, it's just like twigs breaking in the woods. That I like.
That's cool, man. I like that. So is that kind of your style of would you consider that like your style of engineering at this point is like a lot of samples and then making really weird sounds out of different samples?
Yeah, and layering voice. I love doing that. Like even sometimes just putting like a overdrive on my voice and humming a bass line, but making that into the bass part because you can't tell it's a vocal anymore. Um, yeah, my engineering style gets weird. Sometimes Casey will have to reel it back in because it like sometimes I'll mix it until it's just like noise, and I think it's a masterpiece. I just get trapped in my own head. But then, but that's for like my stuff. When I mix for other people, I can stay pretty focused on what the end product is supposed to be.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. You don't get too far in the weeds on other people's stuff.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, that was one thing you and I had a conversation about a while back was the art form that is audio, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize like engineering, we consider it a science more than anything else. And I feel like somebody like you in your position, you really do create audio. You do like see audio as an art form. Like you can manipulate sounds using different aspects and stuff like that. So any advice to somebody that's going into high school or like about to leave high school? It's like audio engineering might be my thing. I'm not really somebody that has a lot of questions about that. Do you have any directions that you might be able to point them in just to see if that's what they want to do?
I mean, you can watch a bunch of things on YouTube. Depending on what genre that you like, you can just type in like that genre and like mixing and stuff like that, or recording and with YouTube now, I mean, there's just a million videos, and see if that's something you're interested in. Now, if you like really want to get involved in like sampling or doing weird stuff and mixing that kind of stuff, I would say get Ableton, get the cheapest version of Ableton, and just dive in and like just start figuring things out. Because that's, I mean, I watched a bunch of videos and stuff like that when I was figuring stuff out, but until I just bought whatever I was holding off on buying and just diving in, I mean, then you're going to realize what you're actually wanting to do.
Yeah, and I ran into the same exact things with, if you can see on camera, we're running Logic Pro right here. And I'm definitely no audio engineer expert as to what Mike is. I definitely did not go to school for it or anything like that. Most of the time I just run into a problem and then I call Mike. But I remember when I first got into working with Logic and stuff, I bought this Mac, I bought Final Cut Pro, and then I bought Logic Pro, and I opened up Logic Pro and I stared at it and I said, "Dear God, I just wasted $500." But what I tell everybody, and I think you can attest to this, is it's called it's a workstation, and it's called that for a reason. Like, I have a tool bench in my shed. I don't necessarily need to know every function for every tool, but when I just need to know what the right tool is when I have a problem, or when I need a specific tool, I know which tool to go to. So you don't have to know every program inside out and sideways to get started. I think that's what a lot of people, and it's kind of scary because these programs aren't cheap.
Yeah.
But I still learn new, easier ways to do stuff on Logic every single day.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how Ableton is. Ableton has so many nooks and crannies to the software that I think that's why I liked it so much, though, because I would get really solid at this portion of it and then be like, oh, there's this whole other field that I can start learning now because I know how to do this.
Yeah, it's like, you man can do this now? Sweet.
Oh, yeah, I love Ableton.
It's very cool. Now, you've recently made the move to Pro Tools a little bit too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been using a lot of Pro Tools. There's so much stuff I don't like about Pro Tools, but Ableton was starting to run weird on my PC. Now, on my laptop, I only use Ableton.
Because Mac's better. What? I'm just kidding.
But on my main studio computer, which is a PC, I've been using Pro Tools again. And the last time I used Pro Tools was when I was in college because we had to use it, but
I got you.
I'm remembering all the stuff I don't like about it.
I got you. Cool. We won't just sit here and bash Pro Tools, even though I have opinions too, but we're not going to get into it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and transition, man. So, we talked about your audio engineering. We talked about Gritsmitten and like your signature thing. Um, so when you're talking about Gritsmitten, it is, and you were talking about finding your niche market and stuff. I felt like was that kind of the turning point where that sparked your interest in social media marketing as well?
Oh yeah,
Because you're like, all right, I'm doing a very specific style. This is not necessarily for the masses, but it is still something that a certain group of people will enjoy.
oh yeah. I mean, there's all you can find anything. There's going to be a market for it.
Okay, very cool. So, I guess we'll start with what's your favorite social media platform?
Instagram.
Instagram.
For sure.
Okay, so we're all about some Instagram right now. So for the layperson that wants to just dive into social media marketing, what's the entry level thing that they might need to look at first? I know my biggest question was, should I get a a business account? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Professional account? I'm very obviously showing my ignorance. So a business account.
Yeah.
So could you kind of weigh the pros and cons of the business versus personal account?
I mean, I always say get the business account. Like if you're trying to do any marketing at all, you should have the business account because you can't get any stats without it. I mean, to me, there's not a whole lot of pros and cons between that, because I think if you're marketing, you should have that because
cool. Shows how little I know.
Because you can see a lot of Instagram did a good job with it. You can see a lot of stuff that you need to know when you're marketing. So you can see like peak times for your followers. That's when you should post. What content of yours did really well. So you can maybe try to like post more things like that. See where your follower base is and stuff. I mean, just a bunch of stats. So a
cool.
Business account.
Okay, 100% business account all the way. We're team business account. So now that I've got my business account, walk me through what are some main tips for somebody like me that I don't know a whole lot about. Everything I do on social media is what you tell me to do. If you did not know this already, like I just like Mike said to do this, so I'm going to. Don't know anything else. Okay, so walk me through somebody like this, somebody like me that's totally just ignorant of just how to Facebook market. I don't watch statistics as much as I need to and things like that. But I do know that consistency is the main factor.
Yeah. Be consistent when you post. If you're not going to post every day, I mean, I forgot to post today. We were just talking about that. I try to post once a day. Some people swear by 3 times a day, but that's just way too much content. I'm not going to be able to crank that out. If you're not doing once a day, you should do at least 3 times a week. Because if you only do once a week, then people are they're gonna slowly just forget that you're even there, and it's gonna hurt your algorithm placement and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, just starting out the gate, what you should do: consistency, and give them value, give them something that they can like latch on to, and a reason for them to comment, a reason for them to share something. I mean, even if it's like just a picture of you or like a selfie, and that's fine, that's content or whatever. Make sure the caption has something in it other than like, this is me. Like, make something, maybe a question, like maybe see what people are up to, a long format, like not a paragraph, but something like move your personal story along, because like that's what people are following you. People are like, you're the story, no matter if you're doing the music or whatever you're doing. You're the personal story, so you got to keep moving that plot along. Like, talk about what you're doing and ask, what's everybody else doing and stuff like that to make it interactive.
I got you. So, because the big buzzword right now is engagement.
Oh yeah.
And I'm learning more and more what engagement actually means. But it really is just like trying to build a community where you're kind of the curator of it.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah. And just like, I mean, it's social media, but people forget all the time to be social. They're just wanting to like spam what they're doing.
I'm really bad about that.
Makes people like it usually will turn more people off. And I used to do it all the time too. It's just like, I listen to this.
Here's what I am doing. Look at it.
Yeah. So, to me more, it's like whenever I'm like what Emily's my wife, Emily calls politicking whenever we're out around people, and I'm always just like bouncing around, like handing out business cards and stuff like that. I mean, the first thing I don't do, like if I walked up to somebody I didn't know, is like, hey, here's a business card, go listen to that music. I mean, of course they're probably not going to ever listen to that, but like, you talk to them, you're social, you're at a party, you're at a social event like that. You're gonna start up a conversation with somebody, and then you talk to them, kind of learn a little bit about them, try to make them a friend, and then we'll get to that stuff later. Don't
Yeah.
And that to me has worked a lot better than what they tell you. Like if you YouTube, just keep in mind, if you YouTube things, like there's so much bad stuff that they tell you to do compared to like one good thing that they tell you to do. So
I gotcha.
they are out there. A lot of people on YouTube will be like, send a bunch of Instagram messages and say, go listen now to this URL, and send that to 1,000 people every day. And then if you get 3 people to listen to it, that's 3 people a day. You can mark, you can tally that up, and that's but you're turning off way more people to your page. So for me, it was like, instead of doing that broad net, I'm going to focus on a small group of people, try to make a real connection. And then those people are going to be followers. They're actually going to be like, talk to me in the comment sections. They're going to like message me about stuff. Like we've made a solid connection. I mean, we're not best friends or anything, but we made a solid connection. They're going to engage with me on everything now because we have a connection.
I got you. So like in all honesty, the whole point is it sounds strange because we think about social media marketing as like building your fan base and stuff like that, but it just seems to me like the majority of it is using social media to like create genuine relationships.
Oh yeah, I mean, just talking about, like, we talked about the small business aspect of being in a music project, but even I can't remember who came up with it first, but the 1,000 True Fans.
Oh yeah,
I'm a strong believer of that, as opposed to like just getting like millions of followers or something. Like you got to get the hardcore ones. Like just get a small group of hardcore people that like what you're doing.
Yeah, if I can find, I will find the article to 1,000 True Fans and link it in the description below, because I think that's a very valuable article for just anybody who likes doing things. If you like doing anything that requires people to support you, read that article because it is fantastic. Like I said, neither of us can remember who it is right now.
Yeah.
But I will link it below. Don't worry. Very cool, man. What are some of the biggest trends in social media marketing these days? We've talked about, I know I said engagement is the buzzword. We've talked about the algorithm. We talked about the business account and stuff like that. Are there any other trends that you're seeing, for better or worse, in social media marketing right now?
In vertical video is like a new thing that's happening with IGTV. People are hating it. Not Instagram. People are kind of liking it. I've tried to dabble with it. I'm not sold on it because it's just a completely different workflow. So now if you do like videos for YouTube and stuff, it's this workflow, and now vertical video is completely opposite. I don't know I haven't really looked up how well it's actually doing. But I think other people are doing it now too.
I saw John Mayer did a thing where he did like the description of New Light, and it was in portrait mode.
Yeah, they're vertical video, man. It's like, I sometimes like it just because you can. I mean, like if you're just holding your phone and you're already on Instagram and you click to watch a video, it will take up my whole screen, and that's cool without me having to do this. But like that's not a big deal. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm a dinosaur. I just finally got in the habit of using landscape. So
really,
oh yeah, I'm terrible, man. I'm like a 90-year-old man.
You watch all your YouTube videos that way?
No. I mean, I ain't gonna say nothing that incriminates myself. All right, so we talked about what the average person needs to keep in mind when posting on social media, for building a fan base. So I guess the main mantra in mind is, engagement is the buzzword, but like find people that you actually want to talk to.
Yeah, and like I love Gary Vee. Don't get me wrong, he's awesome, but there's a flaw in that strategy too. They talk about that, but I think they call it the 180 strategy or $1.80 strategy, where you find all these these tags that deal with you, and you go to all the top posts and crank out all these comments, like constantly just crank out these comments. And to me, like I find like a better, stronger connection, or I know that I'm getting followers if instead of worrying about cranking out that many comments to that many posts per day. Whenever I'm just naturally on Instagram, I'm doing something else. Every time I'm doing anything on Instagram, I'll just hop over look up a couple hashtags that I use, even some that I don't use, in the related ones at the top. And if I see something that I could bring value to, then I'll comment. And if it's something that I am just going to end up making a really like default comment, like nice pick or something like that, I'm not going to, obviously I'm not just going to crank those out. And like, if someone's using Ableton, right? I love Ableton. I'll say something about Ableton or like ask them a question in the comments. They're the best because you usually will always get somebody to write back. If you ask them a question, then boom, you started and you start talking to them.
Yeah. So, because a lot of the comments I see are like, "Hey, look at me!" comments. I'm here.
Yeah.
And you want to be like, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah. Especially don't take that strategy and go to people's pictures and comment a plug about your page because people, I mean, that's just like, that's the worst.
Yeah, follow. Let me double check and make sure my screensaver's on. Okay, we're still going. Cool. I was just making sure somebody called me. Oh well, we'll live. All right, it's very cool. So will you real quick just kind of pull back the curtain on hashtags? Dude, I'm telling you, I'm a dinosaur. Okay, because I mean, we use hashtags a lot. They're kind of embedded in our culture now. But what would you advise as far as the best use of hashtags for social media marketing? Because some people are like, use these hashtags all the time, or this, that, and the other.
I mean, yeah, I would say pay attention to what you're using. I mean, I get bad at it sometimes too. Don't throw out these wide net hashtags. And I think, you talk about hashtags now, but like, this is the first time we've ever hit this mark because hashtags aren't that old. So now that hashtags are as old as they are, all of them are so saturated with everything that now everyone's like, refine your tags. It's the first time we're ever like really doing that.
That's pretty crazy.
So instead of now, like where you could used to be able to put just like hashtag music, right? People would put that in their stuff, which is a really broad one. But there's just millions, like hundreds of millions of posts in there. It's too saturated. You're not going to rank in that hashtag. Ranking just means to be one of the top posts, which when you rank in a tag, you're going to get more engagement. Because everybody's doing that Gary Vee strategy. So now instead of doing like music, you could put like hashtag whatever music you're doing music. So like hashtag hip hop music, or if you put hashtag producer, you could put like a more niche, like what what producer you actually are in front of it. So refine your tags down. You want to hit between 20,000 posts in a tag up to about like 250,000, like 300,000 around there. You don't want to get it too much. I mean, I've used one that has like 400,000 posts in it, but you don't want to don't post a tag that has got millions of posts in there. You're just not going to rank in it.
Gotcha. So the biggest thing like with ranking in tags is like showing up like towards the top, where people on like the top. The featured, is that what it is?
Yeah, they're just like the top 9 are the top. They're the ones ranking.
I'm revealing my ignorance so much right now. Good Lord, I didn't realize how bad it was at social media until talking. So researching hashtags. What's the best way to go about finding the best hashtags?
Yeah, I mean there are like a ton of apps that are like, we'll come up with your hashtags for you. The best way is to get a notebook and get Instagram open and just start thinking. And Instagram's good, man. They'll give you related ones too. So if you come up with hip hop producer, but then you're just like, oh, I don't know what else to post, then it'll be like the related ones. I mean, there's stuff that I've never even thought of. I didn't think it would actually be a tag, but it's a really active tag. Mm-hmm. So like just do that, start writing them down, and then if you find a better one, then cancel one out, put that in instead until you get about 28. 28 seems to be the sweet spot for tags. Don't put whole 30s, just put 28. And then people are arguing back and forth about whether putting it in all your hashtags in the description or putting them in the first comment. That if it makes a difference, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, there's people that say it does. It absolutely doesn't.
I feel like to me it's more aesthetically pleasing to have it in the first comment.
Yeah, I mean I do because you don't see them. Yeah.
Okay, very cool, man. Let me check my questions real quick.
Remember to double niche too. Like that's another thing. We just talked about.
Yeah, let's hop into double niching.
So this is kind of something that like my eyes were open to not too long ago. So, I'm gonna make it like okay, so I'm gonna use you as an example. So like Keegan, music, like you're using those tags, like musician or producer, whatever you want to use, even though those are the two I just said don't use. Um, uh, so you're marketing yourself based on that, right? Because that's what your main page is a musician. Mm-hmm. So instead of that, you can find another niche that does deal with you, and maybe some of your posts are even about it. Like I wouldn't post every single post about the thing that I'm in. I know that sounds like you should do that, but no. I mean, usually that like 33% is kind of where they say to stay around. Mm-hmm. So only 33% of your posts should actually be about what your page is doing. Like, so if you're a musician, only 33% is actually music content. Then you're trying to create a personal narrative with the rest of it, like what's going on in your life. And for you, like, let's say like, you wanted to like also do like beard care and like beard stuff. So that's like double niching. It's also something that's personal to you that you would love. Post like pictures and like waxes and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff. And you can make a post about that, and you can use all those hashtags. So then you're pulling in a different group of people that aren't really like searching down music hashtags, but they might be looking at beard hashtags. But then they're going to find your page, and they're still going to follow you. Like, and then they'll end up probably listening to your music. But even if even if they don't, they're still going to follow you and be an engaged person because they like that part of your content.
Very cool. Well, heck yeah, man. Man, there was something else I was going to ask you. We're definitely cutting this out.
Okay.
Oh, but
we're rolling right along, though.
I know, this is going really well. Go us. I was going
Sorry, my hands are kind of like jumping, too.
So, describe, I guess, if you could describe your work day as, like, with your social media, just walk us through, like, your typical day of your social media process. And I think that because I do very well with templates. Like, if I know I need to do this, then by God, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I usually at the beginning of the day is a lot busier than what I do towards the end of the day. So when you wake up, I usually answer back all my DMs, and then it just depends on what I have to do for that day. I usually go through, start commenting. I like a lot of my follower stuff. And then before the post, I try to do a lot more engagement. So like hitting up some tags, especially with what I'm about to post in. And then giving value, man. Just getting some engagement already going. And then I post. And then usually I'm doing a lot of stuff around when I post. So I usually will just like remember to post that stuff or put it on later and have it auto post. And then at night I always get back onto it. So whenever I get back home, and if it's like 6 or 7 or so, I'll get back on Instagram and start doing the same stuff, just commenting on posts. Going through liking a bunch of stuff. Even if I don't comment on something, I'll still like the picture because that's still engagement. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have any value to bring, maybe just me liking it will bring them to the page. And I mean, realistically, that's really all I do. I DM a lot. I think people overlook that when, especially music accounts and stuff like that. They're not DMing a lot of people. But I mean, I'm telling you, like that's some of my most solid connections, or like networking connections that I've made was just from like writing. I mean, the simplest message. I was just writing like, I love your page. I like your music. I'd love to connect. Something so simple.
Cool.
Just shoot that out. I would say do as many of those per day as you can. If you find somebody who's another creative and you love what they're doing, just try to connect with them. Even if it means you send them a message that says, I want to connect. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's worked for me many a time.
Very cool. So let's touch a little bit on engagement groups real quick.
And then you're not supposed to do those.
Oh, can we not talk about those?
No, we definitely can, but you're not. I mean, Instagram doesn't like them.
Oh, really? I was gonna say I've seen YouTube videos on them, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we can talk about them.
Okay, cool. Let's touch a little bit on engagement groups real quick. I'm in one that you started. Like I said, everything I do is what you tell me to do. I don't do any. I really don't do anything you don't tell me to do. So what are some pros and cons? How do you go about starting an engagement group? who should you involve in your engagement group? Is there a particular is there a particular vetting process for an engagement group or things like that?
In the beginning, when I first started trying to make them, I was just throwing wide nets out there. Well, first of all, like an engagement group is a group message within Instagram. And typically it's niche specific. So for us, it's just a bunch of music accounts or music repost accounts because they're bigger than us. And then whenever you post, you send your post into that group message, and then everybody in there will. I mean, it's like maybe 10 people. I'm not really sure how many it is. Everyone will go in, like, save and comment on your post. Well, if they do it right, it should all be within the first hour.
We're not being passive aggressive right now.
It all should be within the first hour that you have posted, and that the algorithm, once they see a lot of active engagement within that first hour, you're more likely to get on the Explore page, which is your end result with all the engagement that we're talking about. The end result is to hit Explore page, because when you have posts that hit Explore, you're going to get way more eyes on your page, and your followers and likes, everything's going to go up. But as far as like creating one, it's way easier. I mean, people pay all the time. People pay money. I keep looking at this camera, and I probably shouldn't.
Okay, we got B cam over here.
Okay, cool. All right. People pay money all the time. And I mean, in the beginning, I paid money because I didn't know anything about just trying to get into these engagement groups. And it's so easy to start them. I mean, if you want one that's just like with a bunch of people that you like and your friends and stuff like that, send them all messages. And if you need a couple more people, just start DMing every account that you've seen that's similar and has around the same followers. And for me, what I didn't understand was I paid to be in a DM group or an engagement group that was everyone in there had 20,000 followers or more. And I was like, well, that's my only way. That's my only way in, is to pay. And then I was like, I'm just going to try this. So I tried this on Instagram a while back, and I just found a bunch of accounts that had 20,000 or more followers and just sent them a message. And my account then was like 1,500 followers, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to start an engagement group with 20,000 plus accounts. Let me know if you want to join. That's it. Started sending that to everyone that was in a music niche, and boom, put together one. It was like I had a solid 10 people, super active, super into it, all with more than 20,000 followers. And Instagram also favors that too. If bigger accounts like your stuff, then that also gets you better in the algorithm.
Okay, very cool. And I think one important thing that I know other people have touched on too is the number of organic followers matters way more than just the number of followers you have. Like if you have like 50,000 followers and 49,000 of them are fake accounts or something like that. Like I feel like the overarching goal, especially when we talk about engagement and things like that, there are people that are going to engage with your content. There are people that, let's be honest here, the overall goal is to you're looking for people to buy or listen to your music,
Yeah.
So, I would much rather have 2,000 followers on Instagram that are going to listen to my stuff than 100,000 and nobody listens to it.
Yeah. Well, the main reason it's so bad, hold on a second. With the algorithm being what it is, that's why it's so bad. The way it works is when you post, Instagram shows it to a very small percentage of your following. And if they don't engage with it, it really doesn't go much further than that. But if they do, then they'll keep upping your percentage that they show it to. So even if you have a lot of dead followers, even I'll go through my following account and start just getting rid of people. I mean, my followers aren't a huge number, but my engagement is still really solid. It's what I focus on a lot more. So for me, it's when I post and they show it to 5% of my following, I know that they're going to interact with it. Mm-hmm. So if you buy followers, which is the worst idea to buy followers, and no matter what site you go to, they always say that they're real, engaged, targeted followers. They're all fake, and they're all bad, and they only hurt your account. They never help your account. I had a fake account that I just like proved a point with that on. Where I just like threw followers at it and nothing changed. If anything, my likes went way down because again, it was showing it to a small percentage and most of them were just dead accounts. So don't buy followers. Just every single follower that you have, make sure they're engaged. Even if you want to like just scroll through like once a week and pick people that follow your page, like everything, but maybe you're not engaged with. I do this all the time. There's people that, I mean, for the past like 6 months or year, I swear they've liked every single thing that I've ever done, but we don't really talk or anything like that. I've never actually talked to them before. So so I'll shoot them a message and just be like, hey, thanks for liking all my posts, being like an active follower, and then like try to make another connection. So then maybe they're liking everything, but now they're going to start like maybe sharing or commenting on everything. And so do that too.
Okay. Very cool, man. Well, we touched on engagement groups. We touched on, where to start, how to build consistency. Any other thing I'm missing, man? Any or I don't want to say closing thoughts yet, unless, well, we can wrap up. Anything in particular? Any other highlights we need to hit? Any other advice for a ignorant layperson as myself when it comes to social media?
I mean, just keep grinding, man. They musicians blame. I think musicians love to blame things a lot, and a lot of musicians, even in Murfreesboro, would blame the tools like of Instagram and stuff like that without trying to learn how to operate within them. Just take the time, get to know it on your own. Watch some YouTube videos, but don't think that they say everything correctly. Even like challenge stuff that I've said, but like put the work in on Instagram, and that's all I would say to do.
I got you. So find your thing, stick with it, keep on grinding.
Yeah.
That's really just the spirit of this podcast, because everybody we interview, or everybody that I know that music is their career, nobody does just one thing, but they do what they are the best, or they work hard to be the best versions of themselves. I'm definitely no expert when it comes to Instagram or Ableton by any means, but I've got my little thing going, and everybody else here does too. Mike, you've been a fantastic guest. Where can we find you on the internet, especially since we've been talking about Instagram? Where can we find you on Instagram especially?
All social media is just at Gritsmitten, because it's a made up word. And so that's really simple. It's not Gritsmitten anything else. And then gritsmitten.com, and that's going to have all my other links at it. So just hit me up at Gritsmitten or gritsmitten.com.
Cool. Very cool. Anything exciting coming up that we need to know about?
EP release. I don't have a date on it, but it should be soon, within the next 3 months.
Okay. If this video should be out before that. If not, I screwed something up. But yeah, be on the lookout. You have a single out right now too, don't you?
Yeah, single's out right now. Know What You're Like. It's only on SoundCloud right now. So SoundCloud/Gritsmitten or whatever it is.
It is a super jamming. It also has a sample of my wife singing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, my wife is a singer, and she's awesome. So cool. Thanks again, Mike. This has been a blast. Well, all right, everybody. I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Until next time, may your rolls be buttery, may your notes be in tune, and may you stay at the grind. See you later.